So this is my favorite personality thing presentation, and this is me. I'm Jonah Lewis, so let's get to it. I chose to present on the trait perspective. So the trait theory of personality focuses on identifying, measuring, and describing the traits that specifically make up human personality. There are four main theorists that contributed to this. The biggest one was Hans Eysenck. Another one was Raymond Kutzell, and then Robert McCrae and Paul Costa kind of worked together, but they also made good contributions to this perspective and theory. So the one that I want to focus on is Hans Eysenck. Could totally be butchering his name. But he used three main factors for grouping the people that he studied, and those were extroversion versus introversion, neuroticism versus emotional stability, psychoticism versus self-control, and then he really just focused on the higher levels of organization within these called types, and that contained both traits and habits. One thing I wanted to do was walk through different examples of people that would fall on opposite ends of the spectrums that Hans Eysenck gives. So like the first one is extroversion versus introversion. So like, for example, like this is somebody that would be more extroverted. Like they would focus their energies towards the outer world of people. Really, they're just more outgoing. So like they'd want to spend weekends like downtown, like hanging out with a bunch of random people, maybe people they know, but shoot, they'd probably be fine with just meeting a bunch of strangers and hanging out over that. But honestly, like for introverts, which I feel like that's more me, that would terrify me. Like it'd be like my worst nightmare. Like I'd rather be in on the weekend and maybe have like a small group of people over. But honestly, like I'm cool with chilling by myself because I feel like I fall more on the introversion side, where it's like focusing more on your like internal energies and like focusing on yourself as opposed to a big group of like random strangers. That's terrifying. So the next grouping that Hans goes through is neuroticism versus emotionally stable. So like neuroticism is where you have chronic levels of emotional instability and proneness to psychological distress. So like honestly, I don't know if this is a great example, but I feel like people that are neurotic might just have so much anxiety to where they could even imagine themselves in this situation, kind of like a Honey Who Shrunk the Kids type deal, where they're just so tiny and like literally always feel like they're struggling, and that they have like no control over the situation, so that maybe they feel like they're super tiny and out in the backyard and just have no control over this situation, where somebody who's emotionally stable like wouldn't really go through that. Like they can take any challenge that comes their way and just stay at it like with a level head and really just process through and figure out the best way out of any really tough situation. Okay, last grouping that Hans really focuses on, and that's psychoticism versus self-control. So like, don't really have a good example of being psychotic, at least to get on video. But really what that focuses on is being at a point where it's like you're very aggressive, you're impulsive, you exhibit antisocial behavior, and to indicate a susceptibility to psychosis, but really it's just so impulsive, so unpredictable, really, I think is the biggest thing. So like something that made me think of is just like weather, and like clouds go from, especially here in Cincinnati, it goes from one day, or like shoot 1 hour, it's like sunny and 65, to the next hour there's tornado warnings, and you just gotta watch out for that stuff. But they're so uncontrollable, they're so impulsive, and that makes me think of being psychotic. And then really what's kind of different from that is just being self-controlled. So really you have the ability to be in command of your own behavior and even restrain and inhibit your impulses. So like that can look like handling the tough situations really well, and just being able to actually control how you're feeling and how you react to things. When being psychotic, you're probably not going to do that. And so why I presented on his theory and why it was my favorite is because I felt that his usage of bipolar traits was logical in that it could be used as a scale to see where people really fall within each grouping. It analyzed not only the traits of one's personality, but also the habits that drive them. I felt that he had quite a large impact on personality psychology, but might not even be seen in the same light as other theorists like Freud, and felt like what he did was really important. Plus, I thought his name would be kind of fun to say throughout the whole video, but really just found out that I probably don't know how to pronounce it and sounded kind of silly the whole time. But this is my video of my favorite thing in personality psychology. Dr. B, I just want to say thanks for a great semester and hope you have an amazing summer.